Hello, music fans. It's year-end time, so it's time to do one of these year-end best albums list. But today it's not my best favorite albums of 2024. I'm going to actually narrow my focus and talk about my 5 favorite instrumental albums of 2024. I listened to 34 instrumental albums this year. Some of those weren't fully instrumental, but kind of like mostly instrumental, and maybe there was like one track that featured a guest vocalist or something. So I bend the rules a little bit. Um, Maybe there's a lot of people out there who listen to more instrumental music than me. I prefer vocal music. I listened to 430 albums this year, so most of what I listen to is vocal music, and I usually prefer that. But these 5 instrumental albums I really love. I'm going to start off with an honorable mention that kind of is questionable about whether it qualifies to be instrumental. It's not instrumental enough, but it would be my number 5 if it counts. And that's Tigran Hamasyan and The Bird of a Thousand Voices. It's a jazz fusion album. It's got prog rock, art rock, ambient pop, metal, and Armenian folk influence. So it's a keyboard focused album because Tigran Hamasyan's like a keyboard virtuoso and piano virtuoso. Uh, my favorite track on here is 40 Days in the Realm of Bottomless Eye. He brings light into the soil of evil. So check that out for sure. And this is Tigran Hamasyan's 11th album. He's an Armenian jazz pianist and composer. Imagine a jazzy version of Emerson, Lake and Palmer colliding with the syncopation, polyrhythms, and polymeter of djent bands like Meshuggah, combined with progressive, ambient, almost new age vibes of Mike Oldfield. The album focuses heavily on piano, of course, so it will appeal to you if you like piano. A lot of the runtime's instrumental, but the reason why it only gets an honorable mention and doesn't get my number 5 spot is because there are some vocals. One of the other albums that's in my list does have some vocals, but this one has a little bit too much vocals to count as instrumental. Most of the vocals are female vocals provided by Arani Agbabian, but I believe I also heard some male vocals in there from time to time, possibly Tigran himself. A lot of the vocals are wordless vocalizations, so just like oohs and ahs. So it still feels instrumental to me, and that's why I wanted to mention it in this video. But there's a few too many vocal moments for it to count in my mind. It's a long album, over an hour and a half, and I was a bit worried about that running length, thinking I might get bored if it was just piano shred the whole time, but I was pleasantly surprised at how amazing, how much variety, experimentation he's able to bring while making the album feel like a cohesive piece. With repeating themes throughout the album, there's 24 tracks. And yeah, I really liked the one I mentioned before. I'm not going to say that long name again. There's a lot of long song names. Some of the other ones I like are The Demon of Akan Anatak. And I'm not going to try to pronounce and say all the other song names that I like. Now let's jump into the actual top 5 that I feel are more truly instrumental albums. So my number 5 is Wombat Supernova with Apewoman versus Turbo. This is instrumental math rock with post-rock, progressive metal, post-hardcore, mathcore influences. Check out the song Bertrand for a preview of this album. And this is the debut album by this band from France. And it's some of the most fun instrumental music I've heard this year. I like how it manages to be instrumental but be silly and funny and have moments that sound like circus music and other moments that sound like video game music, for example. There's a lot of variety and mood, and with slow, soft passages, fast, heavy passages, everything in between. If you like Nuclear Power Trio, I think you'll like this. It's similarly kind of silly instrumental band. But the playing style here is more in the math rock and post-hardcore style, kind of like what you'd hear from This Town Needs Guns, Chon, and The Fall of Troy. There's even some pretty heavy dissonant moments that reminded me of like avant-garde mathcore stuff like Psyopus, I Wrestled a Bear Once, in the Dillinger Escape Plan. But that only comes in from time to time, so it's not too abrasive for the casual listener. They just like throw in some of those spastic abrasive moments every now and then to keep you on your toes. check that out if that sounds good to you. That's Wombat Supernova with Apewoman versus Turbo. The number 4 instrumental album of 2024 is the Omnific with The Law of Augmenting Returns. This is instrumental progressive metal. Check out the title track for a preview here, and it's the second album by this Australian band, and this is a 2 bass, 1 drummer instrumental prog metal band. You don't hear that too often. Not too many bands don't have a guitarist or keyboard player, and you especially don't hear of too many bands with 2 bass players. But that's what they do here. They play bass in a very melodic way, like a lead instrument, like their guitar shredders. And I've seen them live. They put on a great show. The drum playing on this album is also amazing. If you're a fan of Animals as Leaders, Intervals, Chon, Polyphia, this band is kind of similar, but also kind of similar to Nuclear Power Trio, as they emphasize the bass a lot too. And as players and writers, the Omnific are just amazing. I think I might like this even more if they did have more vocals, though, because the sound gets a little gimmicky. It's very bass focused. The single Bass Camp is a great track. I like how it features orchestral elements near the end to add some variety instead of just bass and drums. And I almost didn't want to count this one because the first track, the Omnific equals bass, starts with a 30-second a cappella vocal bit singing about how you're going to hear a lot of bass on this album. But that's really the only vocal moment on the album, and it's very much instrumental after that. But yeah, I love that they're having fun with their gimmick and that they incorporated that vocal moment at the beginning for some fun as well, even though it's very limited. So I still counted it as an instrumental album. Check it out, the Omnific, The Law of Augmenting Returns. Number 3 is Syncatto with Fiction. This is instrumental prog metal as well. Check out the track Now Sync, which features AJ Minette doing guest guitar shredding. He's an amazing guitar player from the Human Abstract, a band that I love a lot. And this is the second album by this American musical project, Syncatto, that was formed as the solo project of guitarist Charlie Robbins, who's also a member of Artificial Language, which is another great band. And again, if you're a fan of Polyphia, Intervals, Animals as Leaders, similar instrumental prog metal with a focus on guitar, this is going to be right up your alley. There's some great guest features. They've got keyboard players featured like Jordan Rudess of Dream Theater. They feature Arch Echo on a song, and then, of course, AJ Minette of the Human Abstract. So check that out if that sounds good to you. That's Syncatto with their album Fiction. My number 2 instrumental album of the year is Richard Henshall with Mew Volume 1. And this is an EP, instrumental prog metal with some jazz fusion in there. And check out the title track, Mew. It's a really great song. This is the first EP in a trilogy of EPs. I guess the remaining parts are going to come in 2025. And I really loved Richard Henshall's debut solo album, The Cocoon. He, of course, is the amazing guitarist from Haken. And yeah, these are just some of the best instrumental songs of the year. I kind of wish he put all 3 volumes together into an LP, though, instead of releasing it as 3 EPs. Then maybe it could have won the best instrumental album of the year. And I was kind of also hoping it would feature vocals like The Cocoon does, because I like the vocal tracks on The Cocoon. But check it out if you like bands like Pliny and Intervals. This is my second favorite instrumental release of the year. Richard's playing and his compositions are just amazing. So check it out, Mew Volume 1, Richard Henshall. And my number 1 instrumental album of the year is Intervals with Memory Palace. Again, instrumental prog metal. It's got some prog rock, some gent, some jazz fusion influences in there. Check out the song Mnemonic. This is the 5th album by this great Canadian band. I love everything Intervals has done. So I expected this to be excellent and make it high up on my instrumental list. And it's even in my top 50 albums of the year overall, I'd say. even though I'm not usually as into instrumental music. But yeah, if you like Animals as Leaders, Polyphia, the usual instrumental prog metal shred guitar people, you're going to like this. The rhythms are groovy. A lot of them have that gent style of syncopated rhythms over top of 4/4. There's a lot of great melodic lead guitar playing that is both impressive and really catchy at the same time. So if you like the sounds of that, check out Intervals and Memory Palace. And that's it for my 5 favorite instrumental albums of 2024. What are some of your favorites? Let me know down in the comments. Maybe I'll rattle off a few more honorable mentions that almost made it. All of the albums that I've talked about so far are in my excellent tier, but some of the ones that didn't quite get up to excellent but are still very good, I'll rapid fire a few. Thrailkill with Unperson, Sungazer, Against the Fall of Night, Aurora Clara with 4, Luz Duriada with Rizoma. Some of these are fully instrumental, but that one's kind of just mostly instrumental. I think there's a little bit of vocals here and there, but mostly focuses on vocals. And then same thing with Marson with Dragon and Harmony. That's mostly instrumental, but there's a vocal track that features Portugal the Man. And Monkey 3, Welcome to the Machine. And Standards Fruit Galaxy. And then Night Verses, Every Sound Has a Color in the Valley of the Night, Part 2. Actually, that one's might make my excellent tier as well, but it also had some tracks with vocals, but was mostly instrumental. So those are some great instrumental album recommendations. Stay tuned for my next video. I'm going to make a bunch of these kind of either top 5 or top 10 lists for various genres. Like I'll probably make one for metalcore, post-hardcore, black metal, technical death metal, jazz fusion and funk, prog rock, prog metal, all those genres that I listen to. And I'll probably make like a top 5 or 10 debut albums video, as well as just like a year-end kind of top 25 overall. So stay tuned for all that content. Hit that subscribe button if you like metal, rock, and prog music, and peace out.